joining us for the 5th annual Red Cross Real Heroes event. We have a lot happening today as we honor heroes from here among us in this very room, those selfless individuals who put their own safety at risk to help save the lives of others. These men and women embody the spirit and the mission of the American Red Cross, and there's no better time to recognize them as we also celebrate National Red Cross Month. This afternoon, we've brought together community leaders, first responders, emergency personnel, corporations, and others to recognize the extraordinary people who make our communities a better place to call home. We will tell these heroes' stories and celebrate their bravery and compassion. The American Red Cross aims to build communities, individuals, and neighborhoods that prepare for, respond to, and recover from disasters that can strike anywhere, anytime, and impact anyone. But even when people are trained and certified, they don't always respond. It takes very special individuals to act in the moment and help someone in need, even when their own safety is at risk. And this is what it means to be a hero. And the American Red Cross of Eastern Idaho is proud to recognize and host today's honorees. The Red Cross has a few of its own stories to share today as well. At your tables, you will see a series of cards set out, each with a different Red Cross story. Stories about Lewiston's Vanessa Stedman, who after childbirth began hemorrhaging and needed 5 blood transfusions to survive. Blood that was available because of the American Red Cross and its generous blood donors. You'll also find the story of Andrea Barnes, a Nampa sailor stationed in Japan, who was able to make it home for her grandfather's funeral thanks to assistance from the Red Cross Service and Armed Forces program. Before you leave today, we would encourage you to read some of those stories and learn more about what the Red Cross does. Today is especially important because we're not only recognizing these amazing heroes, but we're also raising financial resources to build resilient communities in Eastern Idaho. This is through the support of the Red Cross Sound the Alarm program and the Red Cross Home Fire campaign. As part of the Sound the Alarm program, the Red Cross teams up with local fire departments and other community partners, mobilizes volunteers, and installs free smoke alarms in homes across the state. These teams educate families about fire safety and help them develop a plan to escape their homes during a fire. Did you know that on average, families have just 2 minutes to get out of their home while it is on fire, during the fire? That's why working alarms can make all the difference and cut the risk of death in a home fire by 50%. In Eastern Idaho this year, the Red Cross hopes to install 700 free smoke alarms and make 300 homes safer. In the Home Fire Campaign program, the focus is on response. Even prepared communities experience fires, as our fire department partners in the room can attest to. Last year alone, the Red Cross responded to 340 home fires in Idaho. And the Red Cross supports families and individuals through the recovery process, ensuring that they have food, clothing, lodging, and emotional support along the way. Thanks to your sponsorships and donations, today 2 programs are being bolstered here in Eastern Idaho. If you are so moved today, you will find envelopes on your table that you can use to make a donation by cash, check, or credit card slips that are found inside of those. Table captains will ensure that donations are collected at the end of the event, or you can drop them in the box there at the back. Speaking of donations, we have some good news to share today. Thanks in part to money raised during last year's Real Heroes event, the Red Cross has secured funding for a brand new state-of-the-art emergency response vehicle that will be based right here in Eastern Idaho. During a disaster, these vehicles are on the front line, delivering food and supplies and hope to those neighborhoods and communities who need it most. The new generation response vehicle, you may have seen it as you were coming in, or one that looks similar to the one that East Idaho will be getting, is equipped with Wi-Fi that enables volunteers to complete critical casework at disaster scenes. There's also 2 large feeder windows that allow the Red Cross to serve families more efficiently, and external lighting that can be used to light up dark disaster scenes. These vehicles can make all the difference for families cut off from critical services during these times of need. If you haven't had a chance to check out the vehicle as you walked in, you can check it as you leave and say hello to the 2 Red Cross Disaster Action Team volunteers, Johnny Sue Elliott and Dallas Marcotte. They're both here. The new Eastern Idaho response vehicle is expected to arrive this fall or early next year. The Red Cross thanks everyone who made this possible. And now will you please stand for the presentation of the colors by the Idaho Falls Fire Department Color Guard and the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. I would now like to invite Roy Egerin, the chair of the American Red Cross of Idaho Board, to the podium.
Good afternoon. It's a real pleasure. It's a real pleasure to be here. I just arrived about an hour ago from Boise, so I bring greetings from Boise, your state capital. I'm a lawyer that represents a lot of clients at the state capital in Idaho, as well as the capital in Washington, D.C. And the fundamental difference between the two is one in Washington, D.C. is a work-free drug place. It's supposed to be a joke. It takes a while. It is a pleasure to be here today. It's been my privilege, my honor, to serve now as chairman of the board of directors of the American Red Cross of Idaho. I want to note that we have a number of board members here. We're having our first board meeting outside of Boise, I think in probably 20 years, and we consciously chose Idaho Falls as a place to have that board meeting. So we're very pleased to be here as a board, and thank you for your hospitality. I'd also like to recognize one of our new board members, actually our newest board member, who is a two-time hero awardee for Boise, and that's the chief of the Boise City Police Fire Department, Dennis Dillon. Thanks, Chief. I'd like to recognize several individuals who are here this afternoon. At the Red Cross, most everything we do, we accomplish through the hard work of our volunteers, with steadfast the support of our donors and the communities who welcome us in good times and in bad times. We have a number of elected officials here and dignitaries at the award luncheon today. Your presence demonstrates your support of the American Red Cross's work here in Idaho. Would you please stand and be recognized? I think your names are up on the reader board. As I said, we're having our board meeting this afternoon. In addition to Chief Doan, we have a number of board members who are here. I'd ask if they would please stand and be recognized. There we go. Thank you. I also want to thank our many sponsors for their generous support of this event. We couldn't be more grateful for their support. Every dollar raised from this event will be used specifically for the Home Fire Campaign and the Sound the Alarm program in eastern Idaho. I first want to thank Ball Ventures, who donated the venue and served on the committee, Melaleuca, who donated all the hero awards that you see up here, and the Watkins Company, who covered the cost of this luncheon and is providing hotel rooms for the folks that are here from Red Cross from Boise. So thank you all. Liza Leonard is here from Ball Ventures, if you'd please stand. Thank you. Tony Lima from Melaleuca. And Dane Watkins from the Watkins Company. I'm now going to go through another list of organizations that have sponsored this. Our presenting sponsors, which is the first tier of sponsors, is the Battelle Energy Alliance, the Eastern Idaho Regional Medical Center, Forever East Idaho Fund and the Idaho Community Foundation, Melaleuca, and the Mountain View Hospital. Thank you again for being our premier sponsor. I'd also like to introduce and recognize the Idaho 100 Society sponsors. This program brings together a special group of donors with contributions at the $5,000 level or more, who ensure that the Red Cross of Idaho is ready to help 365 days a year. Our Idaho Society volunteers, our 100 Society members, know how it is important to be ready to respond at any time. Please join me in thanking our members, Albertsons Corporation, Battelle Energy Alliance, the Blue Cross of Idaho, Melaleuca, Micron, and Mountain View Hospital. Thank you very much. Our media sponsor is East Idaho News, represented by Nate here. There he is. Thank you. We'd like to thank our table sponsors. They are Air Methods, Bank of Commerce, Bank of Idaho, Bateman Hall Incorporated, Doyle and Elizabeth Beck, the Golden Valley Jerky, Idaho Central Credit Union, Idaho Foods, Bayer, and the Teton Auto Group. Thank you for being our sponsors. I want to thank Andex Entertainment, who's taking care of the audio and visual needs we have here today. Thank you for doing that. And the event committee that planned this event and took on the difficult task of narrowing down the impressive list of nominees to those whom we'll honor today. We'd like to recognize the committee. They've done a wonderful job. If committee members would please stand. Thank you. Great event. Thank you for all that. 2018 was another significant year in terms of the Red Cross across the country in terms of disaster response. Close to home, we had wildfire season that took hold in the state. We opened a shelter in Hamer after the Grassy Ridge fire led to the evacuation of the entire community of Du Bois. In 2018, our Eastern Idaho volunteer teams responded to 143 separate disasters and served 314 people. This last fall, in 2018, you're probably all aware that there were 3 very large national disasters. In September, there was Hurricane Florence, which crashed into the Carolinas, killing at least 42 people and leaving 600,000 homes without power. Less than a month later, Hurricane Michael, while up the Florida Panhandle, as the strongest storm ever hit the area, Panama City and the town of Mexico Beach were completely destroyed. And then came the deadly California fires with incredible mass destruction on scales not seen before. The Camp Fire became the most destructive and deadly wildfire in the state of California's history, killed 86 people and destroyed 18,000 structures. That was just in the first 4 hours. We are pleased to note that we had 80 local volunteers that responded to these various national disasters, and their names are up on the slide, excuse me. We'd like to thank all of you for your service. That was great. Two of those volunteers are in the room with us today, Claudia and Dave Warner from just down the road in Ammon. The Warners deployed to the Chico, California area fire in November, about 10 days after the fire erupted. The couple worked on a Red Cross reunification team, a group that was tasked with tracking down missing people and helping them reunite with their family. It was no small task. During the Warners' time on the ground there, 1,200 people were listed as missing, 1,200 people. The Warners and their team played the role of detective, scouring the internet, going from shelter to shelter, and making hundreds of phone calls to locate people. One of the people they were assigned to find was an 87-year-old gentleman by the name of Arnold Sheldon. Arnold had recently lost his wife, and he had no family, and he had not been seen since the fire erupted. The Warners, as a part of a reunification team, scoured the internet and called some 700 hospitals, assisted living facilities, and hotels. They had no luck in those calls. But finally, a week after their search began, the call came in that they were all that had been hoping for. Arnold had been found safe in an assisted living facility. The team immediately jumped into their car to go meet him, and it was obviously a very successful ending to a very trying time. Like the Warners, all of our amazing volunteers who deployed last fall have similar stories to tell of grief and hope, and of helping others in their darkest hour. These efforts would not have been possible without the help of our partners who are here in the room today. Again, we thank you for all that support. We couldn't do that type of work without your help. I'd like to go to slide 18. We've got a list of folks over there. In closing, I'd like to share a personal story about the Red Cross and its meaning to both myself and my family. In 1942, my father, Joe, was drafted in the U.S. Army as World War II raged across Europe. He was promoted. Actually, he didn't speak English at the time. He only spoke Basque and Spanish, having immigrated from the Basque region of Spain. He became a staff sergeant and was a leader of a heavy mortar platoon, which became a part of Patton's Third Army. While serving as a part of the American soldiers in that army, they met the initial German attacks in the Battle of the Bulge. My father was struck by a large piece of shrapnel from a German artillery shell. It missed his spine by half an inch and destroyed most of his left lung. He was hospitalized for close to a year. He underwent 3 major operations to repair his wounds. Through it all, he required a significant amount of blood provided by the American Red Cross. During this same war, my grandmother, a little town called Jordan Valley, Oregon, where they had a general store that had the only telephone in town, got a call from the American Red Cross to indicate my father had been killed in combat. My grandmother chose not to tell my mother. She had actually just given birth to my older brother a week before that, and so grandmother thought that was probably not the thing to tell her at that time. However, the next day she got a call from the Red Cross, again to the same phone in that town, and delivered the message that my dad hadn't been killed at all. Finally, back to my father, In 1988, he suffered an aortic aneurysm. Because it was rare blood type, which actually was a part of the transfusions he received during the war. A very specific type of blood had to be located before the doctors could perform surgery. The Red Cross put out a call nationally to find this very rare blood type. It was found in California, and it was flown the same day to Boise for the surgery. To me, that's what the American Red Cross is about. It's about today's event is all, and really all about being prepared to answer the call and help others during their darkest hour. From providing comfort and support to military families, a place to stay, and a warm meal to someone who just lost their home in a fire, or teaching school children how to be safe during an emergency, the American Red Cross stands at the ready in communities large and small to help those people. I can't thank you enough, the Red Cross, for all you've done for my family and all you've done for Idaho and the nation. Now it's my pleasure to introduce someone that you all know, needs no introduction. I know him as Senator Watkins. As I mentioned, my work as a lawyer involves representing clients in the state legislature, and Dane Watkins served great distinction as a senior member of the legislature, so that's how I got to know him. He's also the immediate past chairman of the Red Cross of Idaho Board, and he served in leadership roles for 12 years for the Red Cross. So Dane, you please come up.
Appreciate this good man. He's done a great job. He's a senior lobbyist in the Idaho State Legislature, started in 1976, working for Dave Leroy, who was the Attorney General at the time, and I appreciate Roy and his efforts for so many years, making this state such a great place to live and work and raise our families. Let's give him a round of applause. I think he deserves it. My job this afternoon is just to express gratitude to each one of you for being here today and for your support for the Red Cross. It's important that we have this event today. It's important that we recognize the real heroes in our communities. I can tell you from firsthand challenges that they've had over the year that we've met last and the great things that they've accomplished. There's no reason that these things shouldn't happen more often. As you go home tonight and watch the 10 o'clock news, read the paper in the morning, see the challenges that we face in our communities, in this state, in our nation, and even the world. But for this hour that we're here together today, we can stop and look at these good people that we recognize today as the real heroes that we live with and are part of our communities. As long as I'm a member of this board, we're going to have this event every year because I think it's important we recognize these kind of people for what they do for us. I appreciate the Red Cross. I know when there's a disaster or any kind of emergency, they're there to alleviate human suffering with compassion, and they're just there to help any way they can. And I'm grateful to be here today with each one of you. And from the bottom of our hearts as a board, we appreciate your participation, your financial resources that make this thing possible today. And more than anything, to recognize the real heroes, which makes us a great nation and a great state, and these communities great in their own right. And I'm grateful for each one of you. And I say to you today, thank you from the bottom of the Red Cross organization in Idaho and Montana. And everyone here today are the real heroes of our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dane. And I believe the cherry cordial chocolates on your table are courtesy of Dane, right? So think of him when you eat those. All right. Well, I'm honored to be here today to introduce you to a group of individuals who have never sought recognition, but who are proud, but who we are proud to honor. Today's heroes hail from all across eastern Idaho, from Arimo to Ammon, and right here in Idaho Falls, we even have a few from Twin Falls. Some have made a career of saving lives, while others answered the call for the first time without any formal training. But what they all have in common is a willingness to perform a truly remarkable act in the face of adversity. When called upon, these men and women were brave and bold and humble and selfless. Behind every heroic deed is a humanitarian heart, and very often a split-second decision to defy real danger and come to the aid of another. With that, we are ready to begin the award ceremony. Will Red Cross of Idaho Chief Development Officer Bryce Sitter please join me on the stage? Our first category is the Fire Safety Hero.
If Andy would have never showed up at my house that day, I wouldn't be here.
Dustin Hill was ready to end it all. The Pocatello firefighter had decided life wasn't worth it
This is kind of hard to talk about.
and didn't care to live anymore.
I had reached the point when I couldn't see a way out.
Hale served 10 years in the Navy before joining the department, where he worked for 5.5 years. He was a paramedic and dealt with traumatic life and death situations nearly every day.
And you see all that pain and all that suffering. And some people are okay with it. Myself personally, I seem to absorb all that.
The PTSD from work led to insomnia, and Hale would sometimes go 2 to 3 days without sleeping. He turned to alcohol, and it got to the point where he could no longer do his job.
Now, I knew that I wasn't the person that I would want showing up to take care of me.
Hale's behavior was so bad the department needed to let him go. But on the day he was supposed to meet with administrators, he never showed up.
I reached out to try to contact him and was unable to get a hold of him.
Captain Andy Moldenhauer didn't feel right about Hale's absence, so he met up with Hale's sister and went to his house.
I relayed to him, even if he was no longer an employee of the fire department, that he was still a brother.
And those brothers spoke for 4 hours, with Hale initially refusing to even think about getting help.
He admitted to having a gun in his mouth earlier that day. And that was the point when I tried to turn his experience as a paramedic on him and say, no, you've now obligated me to stay here.
Eventually, Hales agreed to go to the VA center in Utah, so Moldenhauer and one of the battalion chiefs drove him down to Salt Lake City.
By the time we made it back to Pocatello after taking him down to the VA center in Salt Lake, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning.
Hales stayed at the VA for a few weeks and then checked himself into the Center for Excellence in Baltimore, a facility for firefighters suffering from PTSD and substance abuse. 3 months later, he returned home.
I'm healthy and I'm happy and my family life is good.
Hale knows he won't be able to be a firefighter again, but he's okay with that. He's thankful for a loving captain who was there the day he needed someone the most.
My job was to save people's lives, and that's part of Andy's job too, and that's what he did that day.
I didn't do anything that I don't think anybody else would have done. The fact that Dustin's doing better is reward enough.
Boise Fire Chief and Red Cross Board Member Dennis Doan will present the 2019 Fire Safety Award to Andy Moldenhauer of the Pocatello Fire Department. Andy, will you please join us on stage? Will Jacqueline Brabeck from Bingham Memorial Hospital please come to the podium to present the Law Enforcement Hero Award to our honoree?
It took my breath away.
That's how Sergeant Todd Howell describes being shot while on the job last fall.
I fell on the ground. I thought I hurt my hip when on something that was on the ground.
It was September 21st, a typical autumn Friday. Howell works the night shift, and around 7, dispatchers received a call.
We got a call of
a vehicle that was driving down the road that had fired some shots out of the window.
The man allegedly shooting the gun, 22-year-old Juan Santos Quintero. Investigators say he ran from the vehicle and barricaded himself inside a home as dozens of officers and deputies converged on the scene.
He started to come out the back of the house. That's when the whole situation happened.
Santos Quintero is accused of firing a gun from the home, with one of the bullets striking Sergeant Howe.
Well, I heard the first shot, and when I fell on the ground, I thought I might have hit some concrete. I didn't feel it.
Howe figured he had just slipped, but his hip and lower back hurt, so he was loaded into an ambulance. It wasn't until after he got to the hospital that he learned things were very serious.
It entered my left side, below my vest, went through my left kidney, struck my spine, went through my right kidney, and lodged in the abdominal wall just underneath the skin on my right side.
Howe has been with the Bingham County Sheriff's Office for 19 years and is the first deputy in decades to be shot while on the job. Even though the bullet punctured so many organs, doctors were able to remove it in one piece, and invasive surgery was not required.
Had it been a centimeter to the front, I'd have bled out, and it would have struck my arteries that run to my bladder, and had it been a centimeter to the back, I'd be paralyzed.
Just 3 days after being shot, Howe was released from the hospital and went home with a police escort.
The day he got out of the hospital was a great day. The fact that he didn't have to have surgery, the fact that his internal organs are okay and he's able to do what he needs to do.
Santos Quintero is in jail facing multiple charges. Howe returned to work on office duty until mid-February, when he was officially cleared by his doctors to return to the night shift and go back on patrol.
He wants to be out there with his men and his fellow officers and just do his job.
Howe says he doesn't feel like a hero and is pretty shy when it comes to being honored. He's just glad he can do his job, serving and protecting his community.
There's always a what if, but it wasn't my time, so I'm here and I'm going to continue to do the job that I love to do.
Jacqueline will now present the 2019 Law Enforcement Hero Award to Sergeant Todd Howe. Sergeant, come on up here. Will Tony Lima from Melaleuca please come to the podium to present the Workplace Hero Award to our honoree.
It was kind of surreal.
It was a day Joseph Shaw and Joshua Hart will never forget.
We headed back to the shop, take our equipment back, clock out.
The Ammon Public Works crew was wrapping up for the day when traffic near 17th Street and 45th East began pulling over.
We thought that it was just a rear end collision, and we get up there and we realized that a car was in the canal.
Inside the car was a man who was not moving and needed help.
We both kind of just looked at each other and knew that that's what we were going to do.
Without thinking, Joseph and Joshua jumped into the canal. They noticed the car was filling up with water and it was moving a little bit.
Well, with the current, the water and that, it went sideways, and then it started filling up pretty good.
The two yelled to someone on shore to throw them a hammer. Then they broke out the back window, crawled through the vehicle, and dragged the man out.
I don't believe we said a word the whole time.
By that point, two other men had jumped in the water to help, and EMTs had arrived. They placed the victim in an ambulance, and Joseph and Joshua headed home. A few weeks later, the two were honored by Ammon's mayor and the city council. They say it's nice to be recognized, but don't consider themselves heroes.
It was just the right thing to do.
I don't think I did anything that special.
Tony will now present the 2019 Workplace Hero Award to Joseph Shaw and Joshua Hart. Joshua was unable to be here today, but Joseph, will you please join us up here on the stage? Will Jeff Solis from East Idaho Regional Medical Center please come to the podium to present the Medical Hero Award to our honorees. Visit Apple Athletic Club around lunchtime, and you'll likely find Jim Beck on the elliptical and Tom Stickley lifting weights. The two didn't know each other until last fall,
It was about lunchtime.
It was October 25th,
when Jim nearly died on this machine.
so I've learned that life is pretty fragile.
The 71-year-old says it was just like any other workout. He was feeling fine, began to exercise, and then
The lights went out.
I just finished a set of squats here, which is kind of resting.
Tom was several yards away. He had accidentally left his phone home that day, so he didn't have headphones and could hear everything.
Heard the crash behind me, kind of looked over my shoulder and saw a couple of people running over to the ellipticals.
Tom did too, rushing over to help. He's a physical therapist at IRMAC and took command, telling someone to call 911, yelling to another that a defibrillator was needed.
When I got there, Jim was down, unresponsive. He was still breathing and still had a pulse at that point, and then he went flat.
Blood was gushing from the back of Jim's head, where he had landed from the fall. Tom asked someone to apply pressure on the wounds as he began life-saving measures.
I started CPR. He took another big breath. Paramedics came right after that.
Jim was rushed to IRMAC, where doctors determined he had suffered a heart attack. He spent 6 nights in the ICU and says he doesn't remember anything that happened in the gym that day.
It was amazing to me how much Tom had done in such a short period. Not only getting there when he did, but then instructing people to get an AED, call the 911, go get rags to take care of the bleeding.
It's been a little over 4 months since Jim collapsed, and he's back at the gym, staying healthy and thankful for a young stranger who saved his life.
There aren't any words. There are no words. I have looked and thought, and I tried to write a card, and I did write a card, and it seems so trite and seems so shallow.
Jeff will now present the 2019 Medical Hero Award to Tom Stickley. Tom, will you please join us on stage? Jim and his wife Becky are also here. We are glad that they could make it. Jim and Becky, you just stood. Will you please stand again? We're definitely glad you're standing. Will Idaho Falls Mayor Rebecca Casper please come to the podium to present the Search and Rescue Hero Awards to our honorees.
You guys got down in that truck right there with me, and it meant so much.
An emotional reunion for Joe Reitmeyer and 2 of the firefighters who saved his life.
I was screaming and just crying, trying to get someone's attention, and it just, where my truck was, you wouldn't have been able to see me.
Reitmeyer was pinned underneath his pickup truck in a remote part of Bonneville County for 48 hours last August. He had rolled down a ravine, becoming trapped with his head partially submerged in water and sharp sticks jabbing into his scalp.
When the truck landed and I went out the windshield, half my face was in mud and water, and his arm was tucked up underneath me, and I couldn't move it.
After 2 days, Joe's sister Tasha became concerned that her brother wasn't home or picking up his phone. She and some friends set off to look for him and miraculously found his truck.
Hi, this is the 911 operator.
He's in the vehicle and it's full of water.
So he's in the vehicle and full of water?
Yeah, we can't get to it.
Is it just him in the vehicle, or is there other people in the vehicle?
I think it's Jason, isn't it?
Okay, do you know this person, or did you just come up on it?
With my brother.
It was fairly remote. I mean, it's dirt roads to get there, no cell service, no radio service.
Idaho Falls firefighters Connor Cook and Jeff Hardy were first to arrive on scene. They admit they didn't know how to free Reitmeyer and had never seen anything like this.
He was asking for help, but just how he was positioned in the vehicle, it was very muffled.
Nothing was supporting the underside of the truck, and the top was lying against dirt and mud, so any sudden movement could result in disaster. The The firefighters called for extrication equipment, and help from the fire department and Bonneville County Sheriff's Office arrived.
This is the most complex rescue I've seen in 20 years.
We've never trained for anything like that, either us or the fire.
For 2 hours, fighting the setting sun, rescuers worked to free Reitmeyer.
I was just calling out for ropes, I was calling out for shovels, handyman jacks.
It was like, please don't leave me, don't let me go, don't let me die here.
Reitmeyer remembers Hardy holding his hand the entire time and assuring him that things would work out. Finally, after inserting large airbags under the truck, crews slowly raised it off the injured 21-year-old.
We were able to push against the truck with the side of the bank of the creek, and it pushed it up and away from the victim. And we actually brought him through the windshield out his door.
Reitmeyer was flown to Ermac, where doctors diagnosed him with a broken collarbone, serious bruising, a hurt ankle, and other injuries. But just days later, he was well enough to hold this news conference where he publicly thanked the rescue crews who saved him.
I can't give these guys enough gratitude for getting me out of there.
To see him and to talk to him and just the minor injuries that he walked with was just incredible.
Firefighters and sheriff deputies deal with life and death every day, but this is a call and a young man these responders will never forget.
The will to survive on that young man was pretty intense.
We just were like, whatever it takes. If he lives, if he dies, but whatever it takes, we're gonna get him out.
Everyone in the fire department who was a part of that rescue, from the sheriff's department to Life Flight, they all do this job because they want to do the job.
Mayor Casper will now present the 2019 Search and Rescue Hero Award to Battalion Chief Lance Johnson and firefighters Connor Cook and Jeff Hardy with the Idaho Falls Fire Department, and from the Sheriff's Office, Captain Sam Holes and Deputy Mike Vasquez. Would all of you please come to the stage? Eliza Leonard from Snake River Landing, please come to the podium to present the Animal Rescue Hero Award. This is Boomer, a 4-year-old English Springer Spaniel who loves to cuddle, play outside, and is alive today because of Tia Vargas.
I just got a strong feeling that I needed to be up on the mountain.
It was July 5th, and all that was on Tia's mind was her 17-year-old son, Porter.
My son was at a wellness camp because he tried to commit suicide.
As part of Porter's therapy, his mom was asked to do difficult things too, like take a long hike so she could relate to what her son was going through.
One of the things that I was asked to do is to go figure out how far I could walk and then double it, and if that wasn't hard enough, to carry 40-pound pack on my back.
So off she went with her father up Table Rock near Driggs.
And I made it up to the top, and I came back down, and that is when a group of people asked, "Is that your dog?"
That dog was Boomer, and he was in bad shape. He had bumps and bruises. One of his paws was dislocated and swollen, and he was limping. A young family was concerned for the dog, but Boomer wasn't theirs.
They didn't want to leave the dog up there, but they really wanted to make it up to the top. So I said, if I can carry the dogs, then I'll carry him down and see if I can find help.
And that's when she placed the 50-pound wounded dog over her shoulders and began the long 6-mile trek down the mountain.
I headed down to meet my dad and knew I was going to have to shift the weight and turn him each time I'd stop to rest.
Over the next 7 hours, Tia, her dad, and Boomer got lost a few times. They stopped to rest several times, and at one point, she had to slide down snow with the pooch in her lap.
The dirt was so loose, I kept sliding, and I was afraid that I was gonna dump him on his butt. And so I put him in my lap and slid down the snow.
Tia says she reached a point where she couldn't go any further. With tears streaming down her face, she says she said a prayer and told God she couldn't do this and needed help.
And right then, I literally felt the weight come off of me. So I really thought that somebody was there to help me, and nobody was there. And that's when I knew I was getting help from angels.
Tia says the rest of the hike was a breeze, and when she got to the bottom of the mountain, there was a small note pinned to a notice board about a missing dog.
When we called them, their first question was, is he dead? They have a 9-year-old son that had been praying all night that someone would find him and that he would be okay because he fell off a 100-foot cliff and rolled 200 feet.
The family was in the middle of moving to Arizona and had arranged for Boomer to go to someone in Boise, but Tia asked if she could keep the dog. They agreed, and now Boomer has a new home in Idaho Falls. Tia was able to raise over $6,000 online for Boomer's vet bills, and he's doing much better today. So is Porter. He's home from his wellness camp, is working a full-time job, and loves his new family pet.
He actually wrote me a letter and he said, I feel like I'm like that dog. I was lost and I was broken, and you helped me, you carried me, and you helped me find my way back.
Tia says she didn't do anything special and believes she was meant to be on the mountain that day. For Porter, for her, and for Boomer.
I was in the right place at the right time doing the right thing.
Liza will now present the 2019 Animal Rescue Hero Award to Tia Vargas. Tia, would you please join us on stage? We are so happy that Porter is also here with us in the back. We won't make you come up, Porter, but we're glad you're here. Boomer stayed home? Yeah. Will Misty Benjamin of Battelle Energy Alliance please come to the podium to present the Water Safety Hero Award?
Marcos era un buen muchacho.
She said Marcos was
Él siempre nos ayudaba.
He always helped us.
It's been nearly a year, but for Sylvia Gill, the pain of losing her 17-year-old son Marcos is still raw.
She knew, like a motherly instinct that something was wrong.
It was a beautiful spring day. Marcos and his girlfriend of 2 weeks were in Lava Hot Springs, about 20 minutes from his home in Arimo. As Sylvia left for work around noon, she says things felt off.
And she was passing lava and she just didn't feel good. She wanted to come back. She just knew something was wrong.
A few hours later, her premonition was confirmed. A phone call from police saying Marcos had been in an accident. Sylvia met up with her husband in lava and called Marcos's sister, Alicia, who was at home watching the younger kids.
And I didn't quite understand because she was like sobbing. So I was like, she just said Marcos, accident, and I freaked.
Sylvia learned Marcos's girlfriend had jumped in the Portneuf River and became caught in a current. She screamed for help. Marcos jumped in and saved her, but he never resurfaced.
They were holding my dad back from the water because he wanted to jump in and save his son. He just kept saying, my son, my son, my son.
Hours later, Marcos's body was pulled from the water as his parents and 7 siblings began planning his funeral.
He was so young, and he had a future ahead of him. And I mean, he was great at everything he did.
Marcos took care of calves for his after-school job. He also played football, baseball, church basketball, and loved hanging out with his friends.
When he walked into a room, his face like lit up a room. Like he just made everybody laugh.
Memories of that laugh helped Marcos's family deal with their grief. They say they still feel his presence around the house, and sometimes it's simple things like pancakes that cause tears to flow.
She's making pancakes and she just thinks about him. Because we used to have to make extra food for him because he used to eat And if we didn't, he'd be like, well, now you have to make me more because I'm hungry.
Marcos should be in his senior year at Marsh Valley High School, but his family says he's already graduated to a better place by dying in a selfless way so someone else could live.
She said that, you know, she was sad, but to expect anything less of what he would have done, she's not sad. There's not a day that goes by that we don't think about him.
Misty will now present the 2019 Water Safety Hero Award to the family of Marcos Gill. Gills, will you please join us on stage? Thank you. Will Mark Hall from Mountain View Hospital please come to the podium to present the Blood Donor Hero Award to our honoree?
I, do it for the reason that others hopefully can use it.
Kelly Hart has been donating blood for over 30 years.
Kept bringing me back, or wanting me to come back.
It all started when he was a young man, and the American Red Cross put out a call for donors. Hart showed up and found out his blood type was O negative, meaning anyone of any type could receive his blood.
When I initially started, they didn't have the automation that they have now. So now I get constant or continued reminders.
Those reminders have brought him back time and time again. Hart is one of an estimated 6.8 million people in America who donate blood every year. Approximately 36,000 units of red blood cells are needed every day in the United States. To put that in perspective, a single car crash victim could require up to 100 pints of blood.
What is really cool they're doing now is they will send out emails that tell you specifically who your bloods went to. For instance, I got one that a kid, I believe they had cancer or some other disease that they needed blood, and they were able to utilize my blood for that.
Hart says he doesn't give blood to be honored or rewarded, he just wants to help. And he has a message to those who have never donated.
Give it a try. It's not painful. They really try to get you in and out of here as quickly as possible. They're really accommodating for you. So I would give it a try. Plus, you may be able to reach out and help somebody.
Kelly Hart will now receive the 2019 Blood Donor Hero Award. Kelly, will you please join us? Will Stephen Weig from Forever Idaho East Fund in the Idaho Community Foundation come to the podium to present the Everyday Hero Award to our honoree?
I could see his little feet between the traffic, and it was quite nerve-wracking.
Mike Coons was late for his son's baseball game. It was a June evening. He was driving west on Pole Line Road in Twin Falls, the sun beaming in his eyes, when he noticed a child darting across the busy road.
He ran northbound and then shot across southbound, and I seen the vehicles go around him and keep going.
That child was Chance McGrath, a 4-year-old who had been riding his bike near his home when he walked away and ended up lost on the 60-mile-an-hour road. Mike immediately swung his truck around and cornered Chance on the side of the street.
Kind of pushed him off into the borrow pit where I could get into a safe spot, and I jumped out and grabbed him, and he was crying in tears and calling for his parents.
Mike put Chance in his truck with him and began to dial 911.
That's when he saw a patrol car, and he flagged the deputy down, who at that very moment was on the streets looking for Chance. He came up to me and he called the child by his name and knew exactly what was going on.
Chance's parents had been frantically searching for their son, who had been gone over an hour. The deputy took Chance home, and Mike went to the baseball game. But a few days later, the young boy's father showed up at Mike's work.
And I didn't know who he was, and he looked at me and started crying and gave me a hug, and I kind of knew what it was about. And he was so thankful and appreciative.
Because of Mike's swift and selfless actions, Chance was uninjured.
Mike was honored by the Twin Falls County Sheriff's Office for saving the child. The father of 3 says he didn't do anything special and is glad Chance is okay.
And I did it at the kindness of my heart, doing what I hope everybody would do.
Stephen will now present the 2019 Everyday Hero Award to Mike Coons. Mike, would you please join us on stage? Will Dane Watkins please come to the podium to present the Spirit of the Red Cross Award to our honoree?
I've always said true joy is forgetting yourself and go try to help someone else.
That's how it all got started for Luke Mickelson. It was 2012, and he was looking for a service project that he could do with young men from his Twin Falls Latter-day Saints church congregation.
That's where we learned that there was a family in the community that had kids sleeping on the floor.
Luke and the boys decided to get those kids a bunk bed, but not at the store, rather build it in Luke's garage.
I thought, you know what better way to teach these boys how to work hard? We'll just go make one.
The bed was dropped off and the service project was finished, but Luke wasn't. He and his wife Heidi decided to build another bunk with their kids for a needy family at Christmas time.
We knew how to do it at that point, so it took about 3 or 4 nights, but as a family we built a second bunk bed.
And another and another. In fact, the Mickelsons built 11 beds within 1 year and posted about their projects on Facebook. Soon, people were dropping off mattresses, sheets, and pillows to give away with the bunks, and friends in Boise started building beds for kids in their community.
And we built 25 the second year, 51 the next year, 77 the year after that.
Word spread about the project, and Sleep in Heavenly Peace chapters began popping up across the country. Group members solicit sponsorships, donations, and volunteers, then hold building days where the beds are assembled and delivered to people in need.
We have corporations that are looking for ways for their employees to come together as a team for a team building exercise.
As Sleep in Heavenly Peace grew, Luke reached a turning point in October 2017.
And when I said, hey, I don't know what to do here, I've either got to quit my job or I've got to really stop or slow down this SHP growth. And it just wasn't a question.
So he resigned from his full-time job.
You're living in a community that's desperate to thank you. So let's just start by removing the flag.
2 weeks later, Mike Rose showed up in Twin Falls and surprised the couple with this warehouse on his Returning the Favor show.
Gonna be all right, Luke?
From there, Sleep in Heavenly Peace exploded. Appearances on NBC Nightly News, The Today Show, and last year, CNN named Luke one of America's top 10 heroes.
By giving them free beds.
There are now 160 chapters in 40 states, and Sleep in Heavenly Peace recently launched a disaster relief program.
Basically, the funds go and help those chapter presidents near where those disasters have happened, and we hope to fund bunk bed builds and get those specific families, those kids, into beds.
Since 2012, Sleep in Heavenly Peace has built around 5,000 bunk beds total. But this year, the goal is to assemble 10,000, giving 20,000 kids a place to sleep.
In 5 years, I see us in multiple countries across the globe and helping over 100,000 kids a year.
The mission statement for Sleep in Heavenly Peace is no kid sleeps on the floor in our town. All it takes is one bed, one visit to a child, and Luke says your life will be changed, like his was the first time he dropped off one of the bunks he had built.
We walked into this room that this little girl was sharing with her sister. There was no furniture in there, but in the corner was all her wadded up school clothes, or clothes period, and that's what she slept on. So her routine was, she'd wake up, she'd take her pajamas off, put on her school clothes, go to school, come back, take her school clothes off, put her pajamas on, and sleep on her school clothes. I couldn't take it. No kid sleeps on the floor in our town.
Dane will now present the 2019 Spirit of the Red Cross Award to Luke Mickelson. Luke, can you please come to the stage? Luke told me before that in June, what day in June? June 15th, it's build bunk beds, bunks across America. There will be a bunk bed build all across America. How many bunks?
2,500 bunks, 5,000 kids.
That day. Well, it is now my pleasure to announce a new category this year. Will Nicole Sirwak-Irwins, she's the CEO of the American Red Cross of Idaho and Montana, will you please come up here to present the Red Cross Corporate Partner Award to our honoree.
Good afternoon. It's hard to be up here after hearing all these stories. I have big, our heart is big, and very proud to be a part of this event. We added a new category this year, and it's a corporate partnership award. We really have a partner here that we wanted to recognize in a unique way. The Red Cross mission relies on generosity of donors and the generosity of volunteers, and that's the way that 91 cents of every dollar goes to our programs. And we couldn't do that without our partners, our volunteers, our sponsors that help us. So this year, Melaleuca was a partner we really wanted to recognize. We've been working with Melaleuca nationally and locally for a number of years in a very multifaceted way. So their sponsorships, these awards that you see here, they make sure that our heroes have really something fitting to the service that they've given. Also, with their broad network, when there's a national disaster, they can get from their warehouse to our warehouse really high quality snacks very, very quickly. And I've seen this in action, and we rely on them for the leadership that Tony Lima provides on our board. It's just an example of the many, many ways that we work with our sponsors. And so this year, we would like to honor Melaleuca with our special award for our corporate sponsorship. So Tony,
You can
come
get
up?
there right away. As soon as it happens, you can have opportunities that are presented to you that nobody else has.
The mission of Melaleuca is to enhance lives, and CEO Frank Vandersloot says that's just one reason why his company does so much to help others.
You can make an influence if you get there when they need help.
Over the years, Melaleuca has donated millions of dollars to flood, earthquake, wildfire, hurricane, and tornado victims. But the Crawford family will forever hold a special place in the Vandersloot's hearts. They met in a New Orleans shelter days after Hurricane Katrina hit.
We took food and everything that we could get in grocery carts and took it to the shelter, and there were people all over, and one of the families, Terrence Crawford and his wife Terlissa and their two little kids, they had no place. Their home was destroyed. We asked them if they wanted to come to us back to Idaho until until the floods left their place, and they said, "Where's Idaho?"
They quickly learned moving in with the Vandersloots and living with them for 2 years.
The community treated them so well. That's why they stayed so long. They loved it here.
Melaleuca hopes to make that kind of an impact with every person they help, and such was the case with Hurricane Harvey. More than 3,000 were left homeless in Texas, and with the help of the American Red Cross, Melaleuca organized a supply drive in Idaho Falls. The goal was to fill one semi, but so many people donated that in just a few hours, 2 packed trucks were on their way to Houston.
I'm anxious to get home.
A woman from Texas, but stranded in Idaho Falls because of the storm, was stunned at the outpouring of love.
I'm so touched by what I'm seeing here in Idaho Falls because this is my hometown, and to know that they're giving back to the town I now live in is like, I've just watched car after car after car, and it really
I didn't know it would have this effect on me.
Over the last year, Melaleuca has worked with the Red Cross to send pallets of cleaning products, ointments, first aid supplies, and food to wildfire and flood victims.
Maria's destructive path.
And when Hurricane Maria destroyed Puerto Rico, Vandersloot arranged for his plane to be sent to the island.
We flew in generators and beef jerky and cash so that they could do transactions because the credit card systems rolled out.
Once the supplies were dropped off, Vandersloot tweeted that he was offering a free flight for those who needed to leave.
For me, it's a miracle.
Blanca Figueroa jumped at the chance and had 1 hour to get to the airport.
I feel highly blessed. I believe in miracle, and I know the Lord answered the prayer of my son.
An untold number of prayers have been answered over the years with the help of Melaleuca.
And it's been a real blast for us to be involved with that kind of spirit.
And when the next disaster strikes, chances are the wellness company will be on the way.
And when you see somebody needs help, you reach out and you try to help them. And that enhances your life. And if you don't do that, I think you miss all the blessings that go along with the opportunity that you had when you missed it.
McKay Christensen and Tony, will you come up too so we can honor you with this corporate partnership award?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, these are your 2019 East Idaho Real Heroes. Will all of our winners please stand and let's give them one more round of applause. Could gather over here. We'd like to get a group photo of all of you in front of the Red Cross backdrop over there. I hope that you are as inspired by these heroes as I am. By recognizing their courage and compassion, we are not only honoring these individuals, but we show what we value and what we hope others will emulate. This is what the Red Cross is all about. We recognize that many in attendance today are already supporting the Red Cross via a sponsorship. But if you are moved today and feel that you can help bolster the mission of the Red Cross here in Eastern Idaho, please take a moment to contribute via the envelopes that are on your table. The resources raised today will support both smoke alarm installations and help local families recover from disaster. This program truly does build resilient East Idaho communities and helps to save lives. There's 3 table captains that are standing by to collect any donations. Over here, they're waving their arms. You can give your donations to them. You can run over right now or when the event is over and contribute. If we have come away from this event today inspired to serve others or to register for a Red Cross first aid kit or maybe to donate blood or take a CPR class, then it will be a pretty amazing outcome. Before we leave today, I'd like to take one more opportunity to emphasize all of the essential work Red Cross does and invite you to rise up and get involved. Did you know that the Red Cross volunteers respond to an Idaho House fire almost every day, and that its blood donors give 66,000 units of blood every year? That's enough blood to save the lives of 5 Boise State stadiums full of people. And you do this with only 22 paid staff members in the Idaho and Montana region and no less than 420 volunteers in Idaho alone. If you're ready to get involved and ready to find out more, visit redcross.org/Idaho, or again, you can read those cards that are on your table. On behalf of the Real Heroes Planning Commission, I want to thank Liza Leonard for chairing this event, along with Bryce Sitter, Nicole, and everyone on the team, Matt Oshner as well, who put this event together. I'd also like to thank our heroes, our sponsors, our volunteers, and each one of you for being here today. We truly appreciate all that you do. Have a good afternoon.